Good evening, beautiful people. Good evening. It's your girl Shonna Etienne with the Virtual Book Club on this Friday night at 9 p.m. And we are continuing with the book Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, written by the one and only Dr. Kunjufu, Jawanza Kunjufu. So when you get a chance, you come in the chat room. Just say hello so I can know you are here. Be sure to like the page and share the video so everyone can know that we are on, because we're about to get started. And today we're going to be focusing on peer pressure with our boys, and also some of the bad behavior that our boys have that we think is cute when they're children, but it is not too cute when they get older. So we're going to be addressing some of that. And I think it's really important that we start to look at those kind of aspects, because it says a lot about who we are as parents. I for one, cannot stand when I see little kids do things that their parents really should be correcting, but they don't correct the behavior because they think it's cute. Until that little child turns 16 years old and that behavior is no longer cute. So what do we do when stuff like that happens? We're going to be talking about that today on the Virtual Book Club. Is there anything else I want to report? There was something I wanted to tell you guys, but I will be sure to tell you at the end, because sometimes my mind is just so crazy with things. I don't know what I want to say, what I want to do, because my mind is just cluttered. But there is something important I want to tell you guys. I see Charles have joined in. Hey, Charles, how are you doing? Charles, I'm about to share this video. If you could be so kind to share the video, I would greatly appreciate it. I see Nick Johnson has jumped in. Thank you, Brother Nick. He has shared the video. Thank you so much, Brother Johnson. I appreciate that so much. We're about to get started. We're continuing with our Black boys. For everybody who has been sharing the video, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you. I've been getting some awesome inboxes from people, and it's all about shifting the thinking of people, because we have been bombarded with so much garbage in the media. That includes TV and social media. We have been bombarded. We have lowered our standards and our values on a lot of things. I see what people post and I see what people share on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and none of this stuff is uplifting to our people. It is such a disgrace. It is such a disgrace to read and see some of the things that we are reading on social media posted by our people, especially when they claim to be conscious and about the liberation of their people. And then you see them share stuff that's like, no, that's not liberating. So we are really up against a lot of work here. So when I'm going over this book, I'm going over this book for the purpose of really trying to get us to think so that we can possibly change our mindset, or we can know how to handle those we mentor or we would like to see have a better life. So it's really not about a judgment. It's really about examining where we are all falling short. Because like I said, reading this book, I have seen some things where I am coming up short, and I am taking full responsibility and full accountability for my action when it relates to raising my children, and specifically my Black boys. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share the video. Thank you, Rhonda, for sharing the video. I really do appreciate that. And I'm going to share the video as well. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, Brother Janelle, salam alaikum, for sharing the video. I really do appreciate that. Peace be upon you. Thank you, Steve Johnson, for sharing the video. I really do appreciate that. Peace be upon you as well. Thank you so much. Okay, so here we go. I shared the video too, so let me give myself a fat thank you. Thank you, Shonna Etienne, for sharing your video. Let's get going. All right, guys, here we go. Here we go. We're going to get into the peer pressure aspect, because a lot of us, our children, are led by their friends. And especially for the parents who are not actively engaging with their children's friends, who are not actively seeking out to understand the parents of their children's friends, this message is particularly for you. And I know listen, I understand parenting is a lot of work. Parenting is a lot of work. There are times where I am the FBI agent for my children, and it takes a lot of energy. But if it's a matter of them staying healthy, if it's a matter of them being able to accomplish their goals, and to live up to the standards and expectations that have been placed on them, then I am going to be the FBI agent when it comes to our children. Because I didn't need to read this book written by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. I didn't have to read this book to understand what's really going on in our community, but reading this book has put it into perspective for me and it's given me research, knowledge, understanding, everything for me to understand why I do what I do when it comes to our children. So that's the perspective we're looking at. So here it goes. For most children, not all, but most children, peer pressure has become the #1 influence in their lives, exceeding the influence of parents, teachers, and ministers. They want to look and act like their friends. And that's why role models, especially adult black males, are so important. Mothers have often told me that when I say something they've been telling their son for years, they finally hear me. And that's because it means more coming from a black man. Let me stop right there for a moment. Fellas, y'all know I love you. Y'all know sometimes y'all get on my nerves, but if nothing else, I advocate for you guys from here to there. I go far for you guys. And women sometimes say to me, I feel like you like the men better than the women. That is not the truth. But our men need to be retrained. Not all, but a lot. I'm going to say this to you guys. You guys have to understand that what comes out of your mouth is powerful. Whether you are speaking to a woman or you are speaking to your children, what comes out of your mouth is powerful. Let me tell you what happened in my house the other day. I was in the kitchen preparing to cook dinner. Yeah, I cook. I'm not happy about it, but I cook every now and then. But I was in the kitchen preparing to cook dinner. And I asked my son to come into the kitchen to clean the dishes because I do not cook if there's dishes in my sink. I don't care if it's one glass. There should be no dishes in my sink whatsoever. We don't run that kind of household. I do not cook if there's dishes in my sink. So I told my son, who is 13, he'll be 14 in April, to come into the kitchen and clean it. And he's on that video game. I said, I'm taking a game from you. I asked this joker like 3 or 4 times. And I'm glad my husband stood up. Because if I had to ask him one more again, all the control I've been trying to have with respect to how I speak to the men in my life would have went out the window. I would have become very aggressive, and I understand what that does to their psyche. I understand what it does. And I just got up and I just was like, oh my Lord. My husband came into my son's room and he said to my son, did you hear your mother talking to you? Do it now. My son proceeds to say to my husband, yeah, I'm going to do it in a second. Just give me a minute. I want to save this. He said, not a second, do it now. And I heard my son say to his friends over the headset, I'll be right back. I got to wash the dishes. Took off the headset, went into the kitchen, and did what not only did I ask, but my husband enforced. You see, man, your words are very powerful. And when your words are absent from that young boy's life, we set them up. We set them up for failure. Or you, let me not take accountability and responsibility for that. You set them up for failure. And we got to understand that your voice and your words are needed. And that's why you have to watch carefully what you say, not only to your children, but to the mother of your children. I don't care how much you dislike her. You have to watch what you say because there's something about that word. Whether we like to believe in the Bible or the Quran or whatever the case is, whether we like to believe in religious studies or whatever the case is, man spoke word first. Or you want to say God spoke word first, right? And then he made man, and then a man named all the animals, allegedly. This is all the stuff that happened. But my point in saying all of that is to say, there is power in your words. There is power in your words. So I want you to let that sink in about why it's so important for you to be the #1 male role model in your child's life. Why? Even if you are not saying something directly to your child, if you are in the earshot of your child and they are hearing and what you are speaking is death, what you are speaking is destruction, what you are speaking is toxicity, if you are speaking any of that, it becomes truth. It becomes the word of God for your children. Your words are powerful, fellas. Your words are powerful. He says, my children have also told me that when their friends make comments similar to me, it means more coming from their friends. Most children emulate people that look like them. So we are up against something else. Yes, a man's word has power, but guess what? When your children, especially your black boys, are congregating with their male friends, they are more likely to listen to their friends than they are to listen to you, their parent. And especially when you have a black male child, he is less likely to listen to his mother than he is his friends. So we have to really be mindful of who our children are associating with. Going on with the book. In an earlier book, you guys got to get this book. To Be Popular or Smart, The Black Peer Group. You got to get that book. Dr. Kunjufu had indicated that peer pressure has reached such negative proportions that when our children are doing a good job in school, many of them are teased, especially when a boy is doing well. Now it becomes even harder when they are on honor roll because they are accused of acting white. When they speak proper English, they receive the same accusation. That is so true. See, I was watching a little bit of studies last night because I'm going to do a video for you guys because I like to read what is being said and I like to look for the research behind it. So I went and I took to YouTube and I found some really powerful clips on YouTube when it came to male segregated classrooms, right? And one of the boys said, I like to be in an all boys classroom because when I'm in an all boys classroom, I don't feel like I gotta hide what I want to say or I don't get teased for being smart. He was saying the girls in the classroom become a distraction and it also alters how the peers interact and relate to each other. So when our boys are smart, it's like they try to hide it. They try to hide their intelligence because of the peer pressure, because of the risk of being teased and made fun of. And I noticed to be a fact, I know my child is not the only one. But I remember with my son, I was telling him, why do you hang out with those boys? Why do you choose to hang out with them? They're not about anything. These boys are not passing their grades at respectable levels. When I speak to your friends about college, they don't know. It's like, it's so crazy. I said, they have no goals. If you don't want to go to college, at least tell me what you want to do. They're already interested in girls and they're 12 and 13 years old. I said, what you hanging out with them for? I said, you know how intelligent you are? You are younger than all these cats in your school and you're smarter than each and every one of them. Stop hanging out with these fools. And you know what he said to me? Listen, I don't want to be like Kira and not have friends. Kira is my daughter. That's the Ivy League daughter. She's smart, but she don't have any friends. I said, your sister does have friends. He was like, yeah, but her friends are whack. Her friends are nerds. Where the hell did that come from? She has very powerful relationships. But he was looking at, if you are smart, if you are intelligent, if you get good grades, people are going to make fun of you. I never heard such a thing from my daughter. It was cool for them to be smart and intelligent and get good grades. It was cool for them. And it was mixed. And my son said, well, look at the people she hang out with. All her friends are Asian. So my son has attracted to people who look just like him. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But the only difference is they're not striving in life. They are not trying to build. They don't have a vision. And to them, his friends that he has selected, to be smart is to be a nerd, to be geeky, to be uncool. Where is that narrative coming from? Where is it coming from? I don't understand. One of the ways we can circumvent this trend is to use the peer group to reinforce academic achievement. So how can we use our sons' friends in order to reinforce not only our sons, but their friends to strive for academic achievement? What Dr. Kunjufu says is with cooperative learning. He said cooperative learning, children are divided into groups and they receive a team grade and an individual grade. It is ironic that African American children, especially boys, do everything together but study. That was something for me to sit on and think about. Think about that for a second. He said African American boys do everything together except study. Except study. That's major. That's major. But with cooperative learning, if schools will only implement such a strategy where they have cooperative learning and the students are grouped together and they get a grade based off of their group project, that will force them to want to learn together, to want to exchange ideas together, to want to solve problems together, to think critically together, to be able to debate on a mature level so that they can arrive to a solution that makes sense. There's a lot of power in that. And if only schools will consider that more often, I wonder what the change would be. I wonder what the shift would be. Cooperative learning is a way to use the peer group to reinforce academic achievement. The use of cooperative learning will reduce the teacher's need to tell students to be quiet, be still, and return to the lesson because the group reinforces positive behavior. It is very enjoyable to see students on the same team discipline and motivate each other toward academic excellence. Schools must also realize that they are often guilty. Schools must also realize that they are also guilty of giving mixed and negative messages to children on what activities are to be valued. Schools give more glory to their ball players than to their scholars. So we wonder why our children go to school and they don't want to be the smartest thing on the block. We wonder why our children goes to school and they want to be the baller. They want to be the football player. They want to be the basketball player. They want to be good at that stuff. But they don't want to get good grades. You ever wonder why? You ever wonder why the expectations for those who are on sports team are lower for our black boys than for people who are in mainstream school and just going to class without playing a sport? You ever wonder? I know of schools. Let me tell you, I ain't trying to put nobody's business out there, so I'm going to try to be as discreet as possible because I'm not trying to put nobody's business out there. But you see, when I talk to people that I love and that know me personally, I love all of you guys, but you know, if I don't know you personally, I don't know your triggers, and I ain't trying to get myself into something that's going to require it to get nasty. You know what I mean? But if I know you and I know your triggers and you know me and you know I got to get a good heart, I should be able to speak to you honestly, right? Without any fear of an argument or you feeling like I'm judging you. Now, I know of a situation where somebody's child, their male child, kept getting in trouble in school. And I was asked of my opinion. And I gave my opinion. I said, pull him off the team. If he cannot get his grades in order, pull him off the team. Because to play ball is not mandatory. It's not mandatory. Your grades come first. And if he cannot balance the two, then he cannot play this sport because that's the extracurricular activity. That's all it is. You don't need a sport to graduate. Do you believe I felt? I'm not saying that they laughed at me. I'm not saying I was mocked or ignored, but I felt laughed at, I felt mocked, and I felt ignored. I felt that way. I felt that it wasn't important because it wasn't enforced. It wasn't enforced. And that child struggled in school. That child struggled in school. When we as parents put our child's extracurricular activities in front of their learning, I don't blame the child, I blame the parents. Because you have to set the standard for your children. You have to set the expectations. You have to create the boundaries. Children need to know in what parameter they are allowed to play in. And when they go out of that parameter, they need to be snatched back down to reality. So what have this world become where we value the sports of our children more than education? And even when, in that same situation, even when a teacher or a coach tries to convince you otherwise, from taking your black behind child off of a team, despite the fact that the grades are despicable, despite the fact that the grades do not guarantee the entry into an acceptable college that will propel their education and career, when a teacher doesn't see that and tries to convince you otherwise, you gotta ask yourself, how does that teacher, coach, or whatever view your child? Our children are not cattle. And we have to stop allowing the school districts to treat our children like they are cattle. Not only must we set boundaries on our children as parents, but we have to set boundaries on the school system as well. They cannot tell you what to do with your child. And if you fall into that for the sake of your child being a football player or a basketball player or a baseball player, there is something about your parenting that is questionable. And I'm going to say that. And I'm going to own that. To some, as boys become older, they become more aggressive and hostile. And it is amazing to me how little Christopher at 3, or Ray Shaquan, I don't care what his name is, Robert, Kevin, at 3 years old, 5 and 7 years of age, was viewed as nice, sweet, innocent little boy. But now that Christopher, Daquan, Robert, Kevin, Sean has become 9, 11, and 13, he is viewed as being rough, rugged, and aggressive, and is being recommended for suspension. The same activities that we thought was cute in Jonathan and Ray when they were 5 and 6 is no longer cute at 11 and 13. And that's why it pains me in my heart and in my head when I see people allow their kids get away with stuff that is going to turn into problems as they become adolescents. And I look at them and they think it's funny and they laugh. And I know I'm not the only one to see it. You don't got to know somebody personally. You could be right on Facebook and you will see people record their child and their children are saying things that is inappropriate for their age. It's inappropriate and it's disrespectful. And the parents are laughing and those videos go viral. But I want to see what that child is doing at 16 because that's not funny. It's not funny. I understand there's some aspects of childhood where children are going to be children. I understand that. But then there are boundaries that we must place on our children. There are boundaries. Let me tell you, I had a video that went out there. The video, last time I checked, it had like maybe close to 100,000 views. It was a while ago. Y'all got to go through my videos very long ago. And I had recorded my son when he was like 3 years old. And he was pulling on my shirt. And this is just him being 3 years old. And I was saying that I was just telling people that you have to have a balance with your children. You got to know the difference between age-appropriate behavior and behavior that's not. And right there, in that behavior, he was being appropriate. And I understand that people made a value judgment on who I am. And the video went viral because people was ripping me apart and my child's going to be in jail. Listen, like I said yesterday, my child goes to a school ran by the Nation of Islam. You got me twisted. You got me messed up. See, that little video didn't say anything for who my child is. But it wasn't like I was laughing and my child was being disrespectful. He was simply tagging along on my shirt. That's all he was doing. People saying, you need to whip him, you need to do that. That's not what I'm saying when I say kids are out of control with things that people think is cute, but it's not. I'm talking about kids cussing, kids having conversations that are adult-like and inappropriate and people are laughing at it. I'm talking about kids that are seen on camera smacking their mothers or fathers in the face and people are laughing about it. They think it's appropriate and funny. There's nothing funny about it. There's nothing funny about that whatsoever. Those are the children I'm speaking to. And I see so many parents where people like, they'll laugh about their child slipping out a curse word, mimicking them. The child might say F-U-C-K or sugar honey iced tea, and people laughing about it. There's nothing funny about that. That needs to be addressed immediately. Because the minute you laugh at it, what standards are you making? What standards are you setting for your child? That's what I'm talking about when I say boundaries. Many teachers and parents during the first period between infancy through the age of 9 use their size to discipline their children. They like to threaten them, man. You sit your behind down. How long that going to work? How long that going to work? That's your only mode of discipline? But when that child grow up to be older than you, what you going to do then? And that's when you start cussing your child out. I see it all the time. I'll punch you in your motherfucking face. You talking to your child that way? You done lost your damn mind, sis. Who talking to their child like that? Ninja, if you don't like it, you can get the F out. Your child is 15. Who are you kicking out at 15 years old? And this kind of behavior is reinforced among their peers. And they think it's all funny and their friends are promoting it. That's right. Put his ASS out. He don't want to listen. Put him out. Well, what was your parenting like? And how available were you? What kind of boundaries did you set on him? That at 15, he ain't listening. See, I don't have those problems. I don't have those problems. Because you got to set the stage for your child for when they're yay big. You can't get mad at them when they're 13 or 14. They're giving you your behind to kiss. Now you mad? You should have been mad at 3 or 4 when they were saying inappropriate things and you thought it was funny. For the insecure and intimidated parent or teacher, having to look a child in the eye and not back down becomes a serious problem. This situation requires a parent or teacher who is very confident and assertive. This adult, that is the confident and assertive adult, gives very clear messages about who is in control in the classroom as well as the home. So every time I had a video that went viral and somebody said, oh, if I was her, I'd beat them kids gonna be in jail. Whatever. I'm the kind of mother, I don't have to beat my kids. I just look at them like, you playing with me. And they straighten up. When I'm on the phone, people talk to me on the phone. When I'm on the phone and they doing crazy stuff and I'm having a conversation, I do this. And they straighten up. There are greater consequences for my children than to physically discipline them. That's just my opinion. You could do whatever you want to do with your kids. I'm just telling you, there are greater consequences. My children like freedom. My children like money. My children like to play their games, go to their friend's house. They die when they lose that freedom. When I'm taking them with me to the nail salon, to the hair salon because they lost their freedom, that's punishment for them. When I send them to their great aunt's house or I send them to their great grandmother's house and you're going to sit there while I do my shopping because you ain't listening, so you ain't going with us. You sit your behind right on down there. That's punishment for them. I don't got to beat them. I found other ways to be strategic for my children. I don't just buy them fancy stuff and name brands, and my kids look ridiculous. I mean, my son is now getting into a little bit of fashion because he's in a high school now. But they wear uniforms, so it's not as much fashionable that he could be. Now he started to understand what fashion is, but it wasn't uncommon for my child to wear the same sneakers for the whole school year. Because I ain't into none of that stuff. Pick one, unless your feet grow, you ain't getting nothing else. Oh, That's $150. Put them things back. What's my budget, Mom? $59.99. Go ahead and find it in the outlet. Find something for $59.99. That's what you're wearing. Because we have other priorities, and fashion is not one of them. So why do I bring them up? Because when we start to elevate our children and we don't provide them the appropriate discipline, we just give them things because they expect to have it, we are setting up a bad precedent for our children. Because they expect these things. So when they don't get it, they go ballistic. As opposed to them being conditioned not to have it. And then when they get it, they see it as a gift. They see it as a blessing. They see it as a reward. We got to watch how we leveraging these things with our kids. Because these kids are going to grow to be older. And some of our boys are going to be taller than us and stronger than us. And we should not use our size and our strength as a method of discipline and control. It should be a matter of respect just for the basis of who you are that your children want to respect. That serves as a vehicle of control over your children just because they respect the very nature of who you are. So when you are having problems with your child being disrespectful, you have to begin to ask yourself, how does your child view you? How does your child view you? I am very much aware of the limitations that schools have placed upon them about not being able to spank children. When I read that, I was like, he done lost his damn mind. But, I get the point. But adults who give very clear, assertive messages are still effective in a classroom. Parents need to tell children that any adult they come in contact with is to be respected. Numerous studies by Wilbur Bookover, Ronald Edmonds, and Antoine Garibaldi indicate that some teachers lower their expectations based on race, income, gender, and appearance of the child. Check this out, people. For Black boys, the combination of being African American, male, low income, and poorly dressed puts them at risk. Now, you got to understand what he's saying here. He's saying that based on how your child appears, okay, teachers will categorize them as at risk or at promise. See, at promise is what I use because all the children I work with are at promise. Ain't nobody at risk. I don't like that word, but I understand that's the word that the research used. So let me just use that word for a moment. Teachers will identify whether or not your child is at risk or at promise based on their race, their income, their gender, and their appearance. And appearance doesn't mean because you have your child in the latest Jordans and he got Beats headphones and the iPhone 8. Appearance doesn't mean that the teacher's going to see that and say, oh, wow, he's to be celebrated. That kind of stuff is associated with low performance students. That's how they see your kids. And then they I hear the teachers. I hear them. I hear the stuff that they say. They make comments like, instead of them buying them kids all them name brand things, they need to buy them a book to read about your child. These are the comments that they're making about your child. You do not measure a school by its facilities or rates of the student population, but by the teacher's expectations. I believe that what teachers see in the child is that they produce out of the child. So what the teacher sees your child as is what they're going to produce in your child. If your teacher sees your child as a success, as somebody who is on their way to college, they will treat your child in that manner. If they see your child as a hooligan, a hoodlum, and a delinquent, they will treat your child in that manner. If you allow your child to be a hoodlum, a delinquent, and a hooligan at home, guess what? They're going to be that way in school. And if the teacher, the principal, and all the other administrative staff sees your child acting in that behavior, your child has been labeled at risk, and they are not going above and beyond to make sure your child gets success when it comes to academics. That is never going to happen. So we have to take full accountability and responsibility of how we are setting our children up. And I get it. My bestie, I don't know if y'all ever see me share her picture, the identical twin, my twins, right? But my bestie, one of the twins is my bestie. I'm friends with both of them. But my bestie said it best. She said, we can always tell somebody who ain't got nothing. She says it just like that. Now, I know she a hard pill to swallow for many people. I understand that, but she my bestie. She very educated, and her position in the school is booming. She makes things happen. But nonetheless, she said, I could always tell when somebody ain't got nothing. I said, why you say that? She said, because they always boasting about what their child got or what car they drive. You need to be boasting about your child's grades. And I can't get mad at her because it's the truth. She said, we always can tell somebody who ain't got nothing because the way they act. They put value in the stupidest things in life. And I can't get mad at that statement because it's the truth. Put value in your children's education. Not on the clothes you have on their backs. Not at how good they can play ball. Not at the rhyme that they can write. And the lyrics they can spit. Whatever. Don't put no value in that stuff. We wonder why only what, 6.3% of the African American population are doctors compared to 75% being white. We wonder why that happens. It's how we value education. Children learn best when they are given feedback and reinforcement. In the 4th grade, more abstract thinking is expected. More critical thinking is expected in the 4th grade. The classroom becomes less child-centered and that more work is allocated and less movement is allowed. There is more left brain. The brain is split up in 2 halves. You got right brain and left brain. I'm about to educate y'all for a second, real quick. I know some of y'all know, but I understand that some of you guys don't know. The right brain, so neuroscience, we already discovered in the field that this is not 100% truth because we understand that we can reprogram the frontal lobe of the brain. That is the front part of the brain. So when there's damage to the front part of the brain, based on certain activities and therapies that we do, we can reprogram the brain so that people can regain some of the things that they have lost. However, we're talking about when we're looking at the brain as a whole, majority of the creative, emotional side of the brain is on the right. And the logical, analytical word language is on the left side of the brain. What he is saying is when they start getting into the upper grades, middle school and high school, it is less, L-E-S-S, less right side thinking, where they allow the children to be creative, they allow the emotions to come into it. Is less of that activity on their brain and more of the abstract, analytical thinking of the left brain. So if we are not raising our children to critically think, what do you think is going to happen to them when they start getting into the higher grade levels like high school? They damn sure ain't going to make it in college if they can't critically think. Because critical thinking is required for almost all areas of life. Almost all areas of life, critical thinking is required. And if the left side of your brain controls your language and your words, your logic, your reasoning is on your left side of the brain, when it comes to writing papers, term papers, research papers, how is your child going to succeed successfully in that area if you have not developed his brain or her brain, the left side of their brain at home? We can't put everything on the teachers. What kind of conversations are you engaging your child in at home? I remember today I said to my son, he said, can I go to the basketball game? I said, did you clean your room? Did you separate your dirty clothes? Did you get all the garbage out your room that I saw? Did you make up your bed? Did you read the book? You ain't going anywhere till you do these things. He went and he did everything in his room. He came out. I said, I didn't see you read. Talking about this book. He said, you didn't give me my page assignments, Mom. He got me. I said, I'm going to have your page assignments for when you come home from that game. Tomorrow, Saturday, no video game until we discuss this book. He said, okay. But that's what I do. See, he don't look at it as a punishment because I don't do it in lieu of him getting in trouble. I don't say because you got in trouble, not in lieu of. I don't do it because of him getting in trouble. I do it because I want to develop his critical thinking skills. I want him to be able to read this and then tell me his viewpoint from his age group and his perspective. And I want to be able to challenge his thoughts and his thinking to develop him so that he can be a better debater. Because there's one thing I cannot stand is an emotional debater. You just debated me off of emotion. You ain't got no research, no facts, no figures, and what you saying don't make no damn sense. I can't talk to people like that. And I don't want my child or my children to be one of those people. So I set them up right now. And I remember his teacher, when he was in public school, before I snatched him out, his teacher said to me, you know what? Your son is a justice seeker. I said, why do you say that? He said, because he could break the rule and expect not to get in trouble. But let one of us break the rule. He goes right through the handbook. He pulls out all the policies, all the things, and he will debate you tooth and nail. Even though he's wrong, he won't focus on what he did wrong. He's going to point out everything you did wrong, and he's going to back it up with everything. She said, I've never seen such an ability. You got a little lawyer on your hand. I ain't got no lawyer on my hand. I mean, he could probably be a lawyer, but he's going to be bigger than that. No offense to all the lawyers. We need lawyers. We definitely need lawyers, but I got better plans for him. Because he needs to be able to operate and run my business and increase my money. Yeah, but nonetheless, that's what she said about my child. That didn't come because the school taught them that. The school ain't going to teach your child how to think critically. Not your child and not my black behind child. It's because I did it. And we have to do that. We have to engage our children in critical conversations. Before they go outside, sit their behinds down, give them an assignment. I only give my son 2-3 pages at a time to read, and we discuss that area of that book. 2 to 3 pages. Because I understand this is a scholarly book. So it's beyond his expectations for his grade. But we're going to discuss that. And it doesn't have to take all day. 20, 30 minutes. Tops. So that you can develop your child's left brain abilities. So you can develop their ability to think critical and see things from multiple perspectives. I can tell anytime I'm dealing with an adult who has not developed their critical thinking skills. Because even though y'all know from following me, I speak pragmatic language. Very practical on purpose because I know my audience. I'm not Michael Dyson, whatever his name is. I know my audience. And I do it on purpose. So if I'm speaking to you how I'm speaking to you, and what I'm talking about is going over your head, and you arguing with me something that I'm not even talking about, I already know where your ability and your skills are. And I leave it alone. I'm like, you're right. And you know why I do that? Because I understand when somebody's thinking from the right side of their brain as opposed to the left side of the brain. And the right side of the brain controls one's emotions. So if I keep trying to talk to you and I'm trying to have a conversation, a healthy intellectual debate, and you're not even getting the basis of what I'm talking about, your emotions are going to kick in because you are controlled by the right side of your brain. And I'm not going to do emotional conversations with you. The right side of your brain is going to kick in, and that's when arguments are going to happen, and misunderstanding, and attacks are going to happen, and insults are going to happen. I'm not available for none of that. So that's why I develop my children so that they can be able to tap into the left side of their brains, to be analytical thinkers, to be rational thinkers, and to control those emotions. And we got to do this with our black boys. They got to be able to control those emotions. Because too many of our children are right side brain thinkers. Too many of them. It's too emotional. It's going to require you to do the activities with them to activate their left side of the brain, to be able to use it more. And then that way, when they go to school, they can better advocate for themselves with their teacher. Because one thing I noticed from having a black boy who is as intelligent as my son, teachers do not like to debate with intelligent black boys. My son shuts them down all the time. And I say, go ahead, just be respectful. They'll email me. And when they email me and I come in, well let's go over the conversation. What happened? Let's go over the discussion. What happened before he said that? And what did you say? And I will call my son into the conversation because he's able to be able to withstand it at that level. And this is how I used to trip up the school system all the time. So you can't play with my child. You can't play with me. I'm not the one. Because you expect me to get loud. You expect me to get crazy because you looking at me and you judging me by my outside appearance. Until I hit you with my intelligence, you can't take it. You can't take it. That's exactly why they never sent my child back out of district. Because you just thought you were going to do to my black boy what you wanted to do. Because you thought we was a whole bunch of dummies. So you got threatened with a lawsuit. And I pulled out all my email correspondence. And every once in a while, I check up in the school because I know what the law says. And I ask to see his records. Get all his records and all the disciplinary reports. I want to see them all. Did something happen, Mrs. Etienne? Did something happen? Nothing happened. I'm checking in. I want to see his records. And they have to produce it on the spot. And I'm there with my camera, my cell phone, and I take pictures of everything. Because you ain't going to make up no stuff on my son. It's a left brain thinking. Left brain thinking. In the first period between infancy and 9, boys are disproportionately placed in remedial reading and special education. Then the 4th grade and this whole intermediate period make the final decision who's going to college, lucrative careers, and businesses. So by the time your child gets to the 4th grade, they already know if your child has what it takes to succeed. They already know if your child is going to be successful, if your child is going to college. They already know. There is a conspiracy to destroy our black boys. And we have become co-conspirators. We have been allowing the schools to railroad our children because we ourselves lack knowledge and understanding. And something as simple as this video, it would take everything in somebody to share it. Something that's food for life. But if I'm doing something stupid, the video will go viral. Why? Because that's right side brain thinking. Nobody wants to think analytically. So you have to ask yourself, if I have a problem sitting still long enough, listening to information that's good food for my life, what example am I setting for my children? If my children do not see me read, come on now, don't get your feelings hurt. If my children don't see me read, how then can I expect my child to read? You got to be an example. You got to be an example for your children. If your child don't see you handle conflict responsibly, how then do you assume your child is going to handle conflict? If you popping off in the street like you crazy, if you talking to your parents like you reckless and your children are witnessing this, how do you expect your children to act and behave? In your presence and out of your presence. Come on, be an example. We need our black males. We need our black males in our children's lives. So fathers, if you're going to have children, raise them. I'm not telling you, although I'm a marriage counselor, my preference is for you to stay with the mother of your children, but I'm not telling you to do that. I understand things happen. But if you are going to be irresponsible in your sexual satisfactions, you need to be responsible in the consequences of such sexual satisfaction. Raise your children. Raise your children. Call your children daily. Teach your children the facts of life. Teach your children how to be productive. Teach your children how to carry themselves. Tell your children to pull their pants up and put a belt on. Make sure they clean their funky behind underwears. Make sure they wash their dishes, wash their clothes, clean their room, wash their hair, brush their teeth. Make sure you tell them that. Because like I said at the beginning of this podcast, your word holds weight. The man's word has so much power in their child's life. So much power. Show up. I don't care how much of a headache your baby mama is. I don't care. Your kids ain't got nothing to do with your relationship with their mother. Raise them boys. Raise them girls. Because if you don't raise them, the streets will raise them. And the streets get to them, prison is going to have them. There are a lot of beds in prison waiting for your black behind sons. Because people make money when those beds are filled. So there is a conspiracy to destroy our black boys, and we need not to be co-conspirators. Advocate for your children. Advocate for the success of your children. Be an example to your children. Stop being so turned off about us having black conversations about raising our families and changing our ways. And critically examine yourself and see how you can show up differently. See how you can contribute to the society that we live in and how you can contribute to the legacy of your children. We don't have to be in the conditions that we are in. We don't have to. We can make those changes. So that's all I got for you guys today. I have nothing else. I know I wanted to tell you guys that in 1985, Dr. Kunjufu, for those of you guys who are new to the book club, we are on the book, The Conspiracy, Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Our Black Male Children, right? Our black boys, by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. And what he said was in 1985, he made a recommendation for the classrooms who are housing our black boys to be segregated, meaning females in one classroom, males in another classroom. In 1985, he made that recommendation. 20 years later, 2 decades later, people started implementing that. Now, I went on YouTube and I started to research this. And I see that in the United States of America, 850 schools already have segregated classroom based on sexes. And they have been doing well. They have been getting some phenomenal results. Not once, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but based on the research I've been doing over the last few days, not once did I see any credit being given to Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, even though he made that recommendation back in 1985. I see all these male white scholars, psychologists, school educators, all saying how this is a wonderful idea. I see them doing it for the white children, and the white parents are weighing in, but our children are failing. Our children are failing. And there are scholars, such as myself, there's a lot of black scholars. If you only took your time to learn who they are and read their books, you would know what they're saying. There's a lot of us that give great advice. I'm always talking about marriage. I'm always talking about relationships. I'm always talking about managing your emotions. There's scholars like him that's talking about our black boys in special education. Scholars like Dr. Umar Johnson, that's whether you like him or not, talking about it. But so many people want to judge the person delivering the message instead of listening to the message itself. It is going to take us, black people, to change the condition of our black boys and to change the experience they are receiving. Our black boys are behind on everything. And we need to stop arguing with the white power forces to make those changes. We need to stop arguing with the white power forces to validate our black boys and treat them fairly. We need to do it. We need to educate our own children. We need to set the standard for our own children. Because we already know there's a conspiracy to destroy our children. And to go up to them and try to have a conversation about the conspiracy is foolish. Because you know they're going to deny it. But the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the outcomes. It's time to change, black people. I see you guys all on Monday. And we're going to be talking about developing responsibility in black boys. Developing responsibility in black boys. That is the discussion for Monday. I love you all. Be blessed. And let's make a difference in our boys' life. Fathers, get your stuff together if you're not part one on your child. Get your stuff together. No more chances. No more chances. Have a good night.